Now let's go to where politics meets showbiz, and to celebrate the ANC centenary, a lavish show was put on outlining the party's history. 14 lead singers, 12 ensemble cast members, a band, dancers, and I'm going to assume a fair amount of shouting and some hectic rehearsal time. With me now are representatives from two agencies that were tasked with the show. Jameson Hlongwane from VWV, along with Michelle Caldera from Blue Moon. Welcome to both of you, and thanks very much for joining us. Jameson, to you first. 100 years, I mean, that's a fairly wide brief in anyone's description. What were you tasked with doing?
We were tasked with making the 100-year centenary of the ANC, with the story of the ANC, I should say, entertaining and compelling. It being historical, there are quite a lot of facts that are involved, and dates and so on. And our task was to bring life to that, and to just to ensure that those that are watching the show are compelled, engaged, and take something away from the show, rather than almost like it being a didactic process where just dates and occasions are just are given to the public.
Michelle, I mean, in fairness, political history, and I say this with respect to all countries, can be fairly dry at times. Lots of dates and lots of names. There has to be a good balance between the information that you're imparting, but for goodness sake, it's got to be an entertaining show too, doesn't it?
Absolutely, that was the premise. So it was like a story within a story. So the historical context was the biggest story, but within that was actually the story of a grandmother, and in fact a great-grandmother,
That's right, yeah.
and her great-grandson. And
so it had
his
to be
journey,
centred on a narrative. In
exactly. So the narrative then used a lot of song tied within those decades. So that's where the historical came in, and also costume linked to those decades as well. So we used what we called witnesses and pop-up characters that would come into those scenarios per decade. And we used then music, as we said, drama, and great visuals as well.
Yeah. Jameson, any Hollywood producer will say when it comes to historical drama, you don't have to be that accurate, and I think we all know what I'm talking about. I mean, I think that the latest Margaret Thatcher movie, for instance, lots of questions have been raised. Did you have to be 100% accurate? Was that part of the remit?
In fact, the accuracy is shown in the fact that we had an ANC advisory committee that was appointed to check on our facts, actually, so, and to ensure that the right facts were expressed in the right manner, and that certain names were used when it was to that type of detail.
So a good story couldn't get in the way of the facts, or vice versa.
Yeah, we couldn't make it fun, and add a little bit of license to it. We weren't lucky enough to do that.
Michelle, very quickly, two agencies working on a project, always difficult. What was the division of labour, and are you still talking to each other?
Absolutely. I think at the beginning it was a slight kind of shock and horror when we said let's work together, but both agencies, I must say, embraced it incredibly well. And VWV went as the lead agency doing logistics and all the production behind the scenes, and Blue Moon took the role of the creative agency. So the script writing was ours, the design of that set, and etc. So that was a kind of split. However, you know, of productions like, it absolutely is hand in hand, and both those disciplines, no matter what, work incredibly well.
Always difficult to marry logistics to creative. Where are the sticking points typically?
Well, one of those was, I giggled when we were chatting earlier, because actually the show didn't go out live. It poured with rain on Sunday night. And one of those kind of sticking points was, do we have a show or not? And we used our dress rehearsal from Saturday night. So it's one of those points the creators going, but it wasn't perfect. And we're going, actually, we need a show to go on air. So we had a few challenges creatively in production, as you always do. But we had a great creative team. I must say, James and Norboy and DJ Grant were brilliant. They worked well with us. They accommodated the production needs. And we also had a production team that were very sensitive to them.
Michelle, a fairly long day. I think that's common cause. It was an interminably long speech. I think there's general agreement on that as well. What was the final reaction from the party itself, and also, perhaps the more important constituency, the viewers?
There was the most amazing response, because we were sitting in a rained-out stadium, all the artists surrounding us, because it was this pre-recorded show. And everyone thought, well, there's no one within the stadium, which there was not. However, within 5 minutes, the response on Twitter was absolutely remarkable. We were sitting hysterical with delight in the stands. We ended up trending internationally on that hashtag about the actual concert. Plus, there's been massive demand for your competitor to rebroadcast. So I must say, in terms of the social media campaign, what we've seen online has been remarkable. People asking for a copy of the concert, and asking for the DVD, and asking for a rebroadcast.
Yeah, that's strategically well put. Your competitor, I like that. Guys, thank you very much. Well done. It was nice watching. Appreciate it. Coming up on Mags on Media, we're going to switch direction entirely. We're going to go behind the scenes of the hottest new viral ad right now, and unsurprisingly, it's a global beer commercial.